Good afternoon, everyone. I'm from Seattle, so I brought you a little gift. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. We are talking about how to build a lasting career on the internet. My name is Angela Rye, and I am so elated to be in person at the Aspen Ideas Festival. I had the great privilege of serving on a panel when everything was virtual. So it's great to see you all, some of you mask-free. And hopefully we can stay in the land of the living and healthier than when I had to do this last time. So today I am elated to be with some of YouTube's greatest content creators. We have Mimi G. We have the Chief Business Officer at YouTube, Robert Kyncl. And last but certainly not least, we have Rhett and Link. They are the creators of the most watched daily YouTube show, Good Mythical Morning, now in its 10th year. That makes y'all old.
Oh, yeah.
It does, yeah.
Old.
Thank you.
All kinds of old.
Yes, coming from an old lady myself. But we are so excited to be with you all to hopefully share some deep secrets, because I'm trying to just get to 100K subscribers. I'll tell y'all how to do better on Instagram. I know y'all didn't pay me to do that, I'm sorry. But I can do better there, but I need to do a lot better on YouTube. So I'm here to get the deep, dark secrets, hopefully like you all. So Mimi, I want to start with you. We had a moment to connect right before this panel. And you talked about, this is where people see you now, but this is not where you started. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so, when people read about my success, they read about the success now and the financial gain and that part of my story. But for me, every time someone mentions that to me, I think about where I started, because I think that's the part that's impactful for people. I grew up in Chicago, and when I was about 15 years old, I ran away from home. I went all the way to Los Angeles. And as you can imagine, I was running away from domestic violence. My house was very traumatic, and sexual abuse as a child. And when I got to LA, I ended up homeless 3 different times in Los Angeles, one with my oldest daughter. I was a teen mom. And there were a lot of times where most of my time was spent trying to figure out how to feed them. I panhandled, literally standing in the corner, begging people to give me money to feed my kids. And I had a friend who used to manage apartment buildings, right? And so one day he says to me, hey, there's no one in this apartment. I don't know how long before we rent it, but you can squat. I was like, listen, I'm there. And I had gone into Home Depot, and I bought one of these orange, those big orange long extension cords? Child. I plugged it in. I plugged it into the laundry room, through the courtyard to the apartment I was squatting in, and had a lamp and, a little fridge. And I did that for a long time. So when I sit and talk about my story now, building the multiple businesses, I started obviously on YouTube, as a content creator. I still consider myself a content creator, although I'm a founder and a CEO. I own 3 digital businesses and a brick and mortar store in Atlanta, Georgia. And as of last year, I became the vice president of design and patterns for Design Group America. So I do quite a bit. But when I think about, thank you. So when I'm invited to speak about my success and how YouTube has helped me do that, I try my best to let people know that there was once this other time, and that despite the circumstances that people might currently find themselves in, you can really do anything that you want to.
I love that, Mimi. Somebody needs to call Oprah. We need this on Super Soul Sundays.
Right?
Seriously. What a powerful, powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. Rhett and Link.
Follow that up.
Yeah, I was going to say, we had dinner together last night, and I heard this story in more detail, and I was like, I hope she doesn't go first. But that happened.
Damn it. Yeah.
So,
well, the good news is, just like the diversity on the platform, there are more than 20 million YouTube channels. You all have cracked the code. It's different than Mimi's. Yeah. You didn't follow that pattern, but you have your own template that's worked really well. So tell us about yourselves, best friends, and how you all got to where you are.
Yeah, I think the common thing between our stories is what you were saying there at the end of we're all expressing ourselves in the ways that we're going off of our instincts and being true to ourselves to create, and then seeing what happens. We never could have predicted that that we would have the audience that we have. We were just going on our instincts to be entertainers and to be true to our friendship. I mean, when you go back to the beginning, we met on the first day of first grade, and then in middle school, isn't that cute?
It is. Cute.
And we had these dreams of being, we were always the class cut-ups, right? We would only share an audience with each other. And so one day we were in a cow pasture in the middle of nowhere in Bowie's Creek, North Carolina, where we grew up. And we cut our hands on a rock, and we signed a little sheet of paper that we had brought with us that promised that we were going to do something big together. We didn't know what that was, but we literally signed a blood oath saying that somehow we're going to do something big together. And it turns out 30 years after that, and then through all 15 years of YouTube, we're kind of seeing the fruition of it.
We started our channel in 2006, so we got in really early, back in Lillington, North Carolina, in a basement underneath my father-in-law's business office, and there was a toilet pipe that came down through the ceiling. That anytime they flushed the toilet upstairs, we had to stop rolling on whatever we were doing. And so it was just the two of us, and then in 2011 we moved to LA and started building Mythical Entertainment in LA, and at this point we have kind of a campus in Burbank with 125 employees. Could have never envisioned that it would turn into what it has now.
And to this day, whenever I hear a toilet flushing, I just get quiet.
If you all want to see more of that, tune into their YouTube channel. I promise you. My favorite thing was them doing this about quarantine, like how they were passing by. Anyway, you have to see this. It was amazing. Robert, I have to ask you. This might not be in the elephant in the room for everybody else, but it definitely is for me. Please don't drop.
Sorry, Robert. I don't mean to steal your thunder here.
With the equipment. Please be careful. But Robert, I have to ask you. So this is a very unique time. I think. Well, some people say we're not on the verge of a recession. I disagree. But, it's a challenging time where we have to use innovation to our, for our own interests. And I'm looking at a past employer that's having a rough time, Netflix. And for me, I'm just curious to know, did you have a feeling going in I want to be on the side of helping people build their own content, because I don't know how these other things are going to last. Before this Netflix announcement, there was Quibi. I had a show on Quibi. Guess what? Y'all never saw it. It never came out, right? So there are these things, some people just have this gut feeling. Did you have this gut feeling that you should bet on the people and not on these platforms? No shade if anybody works at Netflix.
So I think I will be lying if I said that I did. But the thing that attracted me to it was the complete unknown, because I joined 12 years ago, when at that time it was still quite small. And what was incredible was this open nature of YouTube, that anyone could publish and become a star and over time build a business. And obviously these guys are, by the way, an example of what we want for as many people as possible. It's not possible for everybody to achieve what they have achieved, but it is possible. And it is, what you can see is, they've overcome a lot. And they've become incredibly successful. But the open nature of YouTube is what is completely different from the closed platforms of Netflix, Amazon, HBO, etc. So suddenly what you tap into is completely unexpected things that nobody could manufacture in their minds and sort of will them to make them happen. They're happening because creators have the freedom to figure it out, and they do. And that has worked out. And today, YouTube has 2.6 million people in the partner program getting paid, some of them quite a lot. And many of them develop other businesses outside YouTube because of the reach that they've achieved. And I think in today's world, it's basically a path to independent living, right? You're in charge of your own destiny, you earn your own money, you run your own business. And what we like to say at YouTube is that these guys are the next generation media companies. because that's what they are. Every media company becomes big at something and then starts horizontally expanding into other businesses. Well, that's what they've done. And they're the next generation media companies, and they keep on growing.
I love that. One of the things that I think we hear as YouTube creators is there is this this ability that you have to kind of just experiment. It really is a democracy, right? I know this is a really bad time to be saying that, but it really is a democracy. And so I want to know from you all, as YouTube creators, what does that mean to you? Do you feel like you have any limitations on what you put on the platform, on the things that you try? Do you feel like there really is this space to experiment and see what sticks?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think because we all started so early on in YouTube, I think that we all sort of did that, right? We tried to see what was going to work. I think the only difference between a lot of creators that maybe don't have the same amount of success is that we're really authentic to what it is we're good at, right? As opposed to trying to do something that we think is popular and trying to follow that trend. I've only ever wanted to teach people. That's it. Like, I love to sew, and I want to teach you how to sew, even though she don't want to learn, but I might turn her. I don't know. I don't know. And then, at a certain point, it got to where, like, I also want to teach you how to do what I did, because no one's showing you how to do that, right? And I know that it can be done, so how can I teach you to do it? And so having a platform like YouTube is great because I don't feel like I have to only do one thing. Now, obviously, between my content, there are things that are bigger hits. It's the things that people know me for, right? But I get to try things. Like, I love to cook. And so I started cooking on my channel, and then you just post it and you wait and see. They gonna like it? Okay, they liked it, let's go. And that's sort of how you do it. I think you have the freedom to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the definition of entertainment or success in entertainment is creating what you want to create and then having someone agree that that's what they want as well, right?
Right.
And the internet, like no other platform before, it gives you that immediate feedback. I mean, so many times we have started something, like way back in the day, probably 2012, we did a half-hour weekly show, and we had this idea, well, let's bring in a studio audience of like 15 people.
We are in Burbank. Isn't that what you do in Burbank?
Absolutely.
And so we brought them in, and we had a camera. We would cut to them, and then everyone in the comments was like, "Why do you have a studio audience? We're the audience." And so we killed the audience. But you can't do that on TV. You can't, correct course one episode in, and you can do that on a platform like YouTube.
I was going to tell you, Mimi, I did just do a cooking episode on my channel.
Okay.
It was after Paula Patton seasoned the chicken grease.
Yes, I saw
so
that.
I had to show her that's not what you do, but I digress. So, Mimi, back to you. You started out on YouTube and continue to create content for YouTube. You've since launched many other businesses kind of that you talked about, including Sew It Academy, a subscription-based online sewing school. Please tell us how you started to scale your business through YouTube and what else and who else was involved in that process.
So I was a one-woman show for many, many years. I started to scale my business because really early on when I started my blog, I had made a skirt for myself. This is really how it started. I made a skirt for myself. I posted it on the blog. People loved this skirt. They were like, yo, can I buy this skirt? I'm like, I don't sew for hire. Like, not my thing. But it was nearing the holidays, and I was broke. And I was like, I need to buy the kids some Christmas presents. So I said, I'm going to put this skirt on my blog with a PayPal button. I'm just going to take a couple orders. I priced really high, like $275, because who's going to pay me $275 for a skirt? I went to bed, woke up in the morning, had thousands of dollars in my PayPal account. I said, well, who the hell going to sew all these skirts? I sold the skirts. The kids was cutting, everybody was working, okay? Printing shipping labels and everything. I got all the skirts done, and I was sitting there thinking, like, I don't ever want to do that again. What if I could just teach them to make it? And that was my very first step-by-step paid tutorial, which at the time nobody was doing. It was rather difficult because I had to manually email everybody the link because I didn't have all of the platforms that we have now for digital products. But it did really well. And at the end of the year, PayPal sent me a 1099K, and I opened it up, and I was like, I made how much money? Well, first, where is it? And two, well, if I did this without trying, imagine what I could do if I really focused. So that's what I did. I started to plan out, okay, if I could do one tutorial a month, I was doing maybe between $9,000 and $10,000 per tutorial. I figured I can quit my job, which I did about a year and a half later. And I knew that I wanted to sell products, but I didn't want to do what most people were doing, which was doing Google AdSense or sponsorships, which I did, but I wanted if I was going to sell something on my blog and on my platforms, why not my products and my services? So although I was creating a lot of YouTube content, free content, I wanted people to learn to sew in a way that was easy. And if you were from the community that I come from and can't afford to go to fashion and design school, which I tried and couldn't, it was very expensive, I wanted to give you the ability to learn everything you would learn for like $12 a month. And so that's what I did. I launched with one course on the platform, and now we have 56,000 students. We're like the Netflix of sewing.
Wow.
Yay. The YouTube of sewing.
Yeah. That's true.
The YouTube of sewing. We're not going to speak that over you. They're laying people out.
We need a paid partner, a paid membership.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Subscription.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying?
Subscription. Yes. Got it. Rhett and Link. You guys talked about the hundreds of folks who are working for you all now. Who and what did it take to build out your company, Mythical Entertainment?
Yeah, we had this mindset of, okay, we're just going to put videos out and we'll get a little bit of help here and there. This was early on to say, okay, we can get someone to help with production, someone to help with editing. But things really shifted when we got funding from YouTube, actually, through an experimental fund to try new things, which ended up being the half-hour show that Rhett mentioned earlier, called The Mythical Show. They wanted to experiment in long form. And so because we had a budget for something, then in our minds, all of a sudden, we were justified in hiring more people at a higher level. We brought in a producer for that, who ended up being Stevie, who is now our creative right hand. She's been with us ever since. But hiring at a level that was not just, okay, you can take something off my plate that is time consuming, but you can now hiring a producer that really vibes with us creatively, that we can entrust with doing things at a higher level better than even we could do. So I think that then we gained a vision for being able to expand at a more rapid rate and entrusting people to do all types of things and building Mythical to be much more than just two guys making videos.
And that's a principle that we kind of have that, we go through this process every year where we think about what we're doing and what our day consists of, and we're like, what can we find somebody else to do? And they will be better at this than we are, and we continually focus on what we're doing. So we've just repeated that process over and over again for a decade and gotten to this point. And I think another thing we've done, sort of the what, is reinvesting in ideas and people, where a lot of creators will, you start getting a lot of traction on YouTube, it's more money than you've ever seen before, in your previous job. And then, I think maybe it was life stage. When we started, we each were married with kids, and so we were thinking about long-term future. We weren't buying Lambos. And I don't think I could fit in a Lambo. I haven't tried, but we're much more interested in taking that profit.
That could be the next video, by the way.
Yeah, well, trust me, we thought about it.
Okay.
And reinvesting in ideas and people and just growing the team and coming up with new things for the team to do.
Yeah.
I love that. I will ask you, Robert, they just talked about an experimental fund. Where is this fund?
Yeah, Robert, where's the fun, Robert?
We want to know where's the fund.
I didn't get a
Talk
fund.
to us about the fund. This is the chief business officer, in case you all missed it. Appropriate person to ask.
Yeah, so we had a couple of phases with that. One is around 2012, I think is that the one you're talking about, or the one later?
Innovation program.
The other one. Yeah, it was later.
That was later.
Yeah, we have lots of different funds, and usually they live for a few years and then they go away and then something else comes up, depending on what's happening. So we kind of keep it fluid that way. But the first one that we did, we poured in a couple $100 million into up and coming channels, and we kind of split it halfway between traditional Hollywood and half into YouTube native creators. And that also gave us data to observe like what happens and who succeeds, et cetera. And it's great to see that many of the channels are around and a lot bigger, from that time. But the thing that was most surprising and in a great way is what you're seeing here, which is you have creators who are incredibly creative, and now they're also CEOs. So they're like, they're just describing all these people and all these employees, right? That happens, the next generation media companies now have employees. They hire people. Suddenly there's a bigger economic impact. But what it means for them is they have to be both the creative person as well as a CEO. And how do they split that and how do they spend their time is very tricky. But because they started it from ground up, they know every detail of the business. So the common thread that we see is most YouTube creators who are incredibly successful are more mature for their age than other people because they have gone through this business building and then this evolution from a creative person to also a business person. And it's like, it just matures you. And you can see it when you talk to successful creators, like it's very apparent. And so anyway, so we have all kinds of different funds. For instance, today we have a fund focused on shorts to get creators started on super short videos. So we just keep on rolling those.
You have any funds you want to break today? Any breaking news? Brendan, don't jump up, Brendan. Don't jump up. He's shaking his head no. Okay. I guess we're not breaking any news today. Okay. So creators, back to you all. We know the internet trends can change. It says on here by the hour. I would say by the millisecond. It's very quick. How do you build a business on YouTube, given the internet is where it sits, that is resilient? How do you move with the times, or do you not move with the times? You all talked about staying true. Mimi, you talked about staying true to what you care about, your passions, and doing that. But you also have talked about experimenting. So how do you ensure that you balance what you're good at, what people know you for, being the audience rather than building in an audience? How do you maneuver with the changing times on the internet?
I think a lot of times I really have only focused on consistency, which I think is the one thing that a lot of content creators struggle with, especially when they're starting, is doing it consistently. And also doing it because you really love it, right? Making sure that what you're doing, you really enjoy. Also, I think that there's so many different ways that you can use YouTube that I don't think people, or many people, think about, right? You have your Rhett and your Link, which are amazing, and the content that they create is incredible, and that following and that business comes from that. And for me, YouTube is like my #1 platform because it's my funnel, right? So I've developed other businesses outside. Yeah, that YouTube check every month is nice, but my businesses is really what I rely on, but YouTube is like my partner because that's how I reach my audience. That's how I sell without selling. That's how I develop new products. That's how I show new fabrics or new patterns or get people excited about Sew It Academy without like selling, beating them over the head with it. It's still in the form of content and entertainment. And so sometimes it can be hard to see stuff that's popping off and you're like, oh, maybe I should jump on this, bandwagon. I resisted the other platforms for a long time, like TikToks, and I was like, I can't do more content, But I think that if you just focus on what it is that you do really well in the platform that you're most successful in, and just focus on that, the rest of it sort of goes away, right? I think that's the difference between becoming a creator now and having the longevity that we have had, is we do what we're good at, we do it consistently, and we really care about the audience that's watching it.
And I think there's a difference between building a business on a trend and building a business that can absorb the trends and leverage the trends, right? So I mean, using Good Mythical Morning as a our flagship show, if a trend comes along, we can find a way to talk about it. We can find a way to ride that wave, but we are not built on the trend itself.
Right.
So if you are starting a business that's built on a trend, you're gonna have to leverage that into something else, or when the trend goes away, your business goes away. And I also think one of the things we talk about all the time is not being a critic of the trends, but being a student of the trends, right? Because when you've been doing it for a long time, something comes along, like when everybody started going to the vertical video, right? It's just like, we're gonna have to figure this out. I mean, there's two of us. We can't even fit next to each other on a vertical video. And, but of course, we then decided to embrace that strategy, and now we have a department where we're making shorts, and we're doing original video there, not just repurposing other video. And now YouTube is really rewarding that experimentation as well.
It's fun too because I just started getting into shorts on YouTube, and it gives me the chance to sort of test stuff out, you know, to see how my audience is going to react without doing like a full show, a full episode. So that's really great because it gives me the ability to sort of, you know, test the waters in other things that I'm really excited about doing.
But I think they have the longevity that we've all enjoyed. It's because we're just constantly watching what's the next thing, and then how can we learn from every single thing that we've done. And that's something that we've tried to convey to our teams whenever, and that everything we put something out into the world, we try to learn from it. We try to analyze. It's not just about, okay, did it work or not? Well, you really got to find out why. Why did it work or why didn't it work? And I think if that trickles down to our team, then I think that leads to much more innovation than just what two minds can come up with. So I think that tenacity to say, okay, things are constantly changing. You can be subject to the whims of an algorithmic change, you know, and everything is very reactive. So at times it can feel a little powerless, even though there's the irony there of like, we have so much creative power to do whatever we want on the platform. We serve our audience. Sometimes it can feel like you're serving an algorithm, but I think that's when it really comes down to the key being, if we see our content as a way to conduct a relationship with our fans, the mythical beasts. It's always a two-way conversation. So we're learning from them directly with everything that we're trying. So
they will tell you.
Yeah, they will tell you.
They will tell you.
That's good, but not fun sometimes.
I was gonna say, I don't know, depending on what they're saying.
And technology-wise, things happen like so quickly. There's like a new editing app and a new this and that. I'm about to be 46 years old. I will call on my Gen Zs in a minute. Mani, how did they do this? Show me how to do this. I got to keep up with everything that happens.
And speaking of keeping up, Robert, one of the things I think we've heard today is the resilience of YouTube is in the consistency of its creators, but you also talked about this fund for shorts. How do you balance what YouTube is known for, you know, folks coming on doing what they do best, and also stretching creators to try something outside of the box?
Yeah, so for us, with shorts, we came to a realization before we had it that we were missing a use case that should be on the platform, because YouTube is really a multi-platform, multi-format platform. There's a huge live streaming business on it, and gaming, it's very large, obviously, but obviously news is really important. So there's that. There's lots of videos which used to be called short, but they're, you know, from 5 to 10 minutes. They used to be called short. There's lots of long-form content, but we don't have the super short content under like 1 minute. And we saw a lot of traction with users in it, including, you know, some really interesting creators. So we figured that we should expand the formats, format suite on YouTube. And it will attract probably yet another next generation of creators, but also existing creators embrace it and use it for testing, use it, you know, again, figure out a use case that works for them. And overall, it engages the audience, and that's exactly what's happening. So we're really happy that it's growing and it got engaged.
Amazing. So speaking of funds, Rhett and Link, you all have also grown out your venture capital business through the Mythical Accelerator Fund, helping future internet stars get started and acquiring ownership stakes in their businesses. How much are y'all taking? I want to know. But what does that, talk about what that looks like and what the impact has been thus far?
Yeah, you can think of it as like a Y Combinator for creators. I mean, we really wanted to, you know, in one sense, we were thinking about our legacy. Not that we have plans on going anywhere, but we find ourselves at a certain point in our career that now we welcome creators emulating what we do because, just like you said, any way that we can help, there's an opportunity there. So that's a legacy play. But then there is also that business play of, okay, how do we set up an arrangement with people where it's creators, where it's mutually beneficial? We find a few creators that are, they're business minded. They're thinking beyond just what's the next video they're going to make, thinking about building a brand, thinking about branching out. So when we started working with Jarvis Johnson and then Daniel Thrasher, they both met that criteria. And it's been a lot of fun to get started and say, okay, here's a chunk of money. We can help you spend it in ways to build your team, to develop new production processes, and also get some creative input if you want it. It's been a rewarding process.
We call it the Accelerator because we look back on the 15 years that we had spent building our business and answering all these questions and figuring out who's the right partner for this. Should you do this in-house? Should you outsource this? And we were like, every creator is sort of out there siloed answering all these questions for themselves. What if we can identify a creator who wants to build a business, a brand that's bigger than themselves, that's sustainable, and say, hey, here's the playbook. You don't have to spend 10 years building this. We can do it. We can do it in 18, 24 months, So that's kind of the idea behind the program.
I love that. And speaking of a legacy play, Mimi, you also are building a legacy through the Sew It Academy. And I want to know where the folks who enroll and participate in the academy, where do they go when they leave you?
Sew It Academy is like my baby. It really is. We have about an 82% retention rate, and we've been going now on almost 7 years. So many of our students are still with us, always learning. And you literally start, like the first class is me taking a sewing machine out of a box. Like, you don't have to know nothing. And now they're making tailored jackets and coats and all kinds of stuff. And so what we started to notice was that so many of them wanted to be in the fashion industry, and so they've started their own fashion lines. They've, done their first fashion show. They've worked in the costume industry, in the fashion industry. They've started their own online businesses, their own digital brands, which for me, it's really amazing to see. And when I signed my very first licensing deal, creating my Mimi G for Simplicity patterns, that for me did amazing things, right? Because it immediately put me in front of millions of people who probably wouldn't have never seen me. I was in the catalog, I was at every Joann's, Hobby Lobby, Walmart. So it gave me incredible visibility. And that royalty check was real nice. So when I signed on, full circle moment, that then last year I became the vice president of all the pattern brands. That was one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to give other creators the same opportunity that I got as a licensee, and so I started a whole new brand that I launched this October, where I'm signing designers to create their very own sewing patterns. And so I'm really excited about that, because that's sort of, if you get that seat at the table, make it worth it, you know what I'm saying? And create other opportunities for other makers.
That's amazing. I do want to ask you, Robert, hearing these stories, about how YouTube propelled these creators into businesses that are sustainable and probably multi-generational. How does that make you feel about what YouTube has done so far?
Makes me feel like I have the wrong job. I should be a creator.
It's not too late, Robert. Start that short. Put that short up today.
No, look, for us, we see YouTube as the home of next generation media companies. These guys are examples of that. It's a global open platform that has pretty significant economic impact on pretty much every country where we are, because once you become successful, you start hiring people, you start renting studios, retail locations, all of these, and suddenly you start seeing this big economic impact that the company has on different countries. For us, it's all about diverse set of creators with diverse set of ideas building businesses. And as long as that works and grows, we're contributing something positive, right? Because it's path to independence, path to earnings, and creating joy for people. The subscribers to Mimi's Academy are probably all quite excited. 86% retention rate. I don't know a company that has that, right? It's incredible. And with billions of dollars of content spent, the companies don't have that kind of retention. So it's the connection of the creator with their audience, and and obviously rewarding in terms of business. So we like to continue to do that and do it responsibly, obviously, and who knows where the next decade takes us, but everything continues to be on the right path.
I want to ask you all, we're hearing a lot of conversation these days about ownership. I think mostly in the context of some of our best creatives, you hear about, record deals gone wrong over the years. And so when you think about how important it is in you all's businesses, particularly on YouTube, to have ownership of your own content and to create and facilitate opportunities for other creators to do that same thing, to own their own content, how important is ownership to you, and how has YouTube facilitated that ability for you?
Well, I think there's a reason that so many traditional creatives are trying to get something going on YouTube, because they see that when they're only presenting themselves as talent for hire for somebody else's project, the moment that, first of all, you get paid once, right? Typically, and once that project is gone, then your contribution to that is gone, and you've got to go find new work. And so building something sustainable that has a long tail value, and also I think the audience can sense when you're ultimately in control. I mean, we've had the experience of making some TV shows for networks, and have really enjoyed the process, and it's a completely different thing, and you're kind of having fun with other people's money, and it's kind of a different ball game. But ultimately, you're trying to create something for a different audience, and somebody else's interests are what you're trying to serve, not just the connection between you and your audience. So I think when you don't fully own it, not only do you not benefit financially long-term from it, but you also don't create exactly what you want to create.
Right, you don't have the 100% freedom to be authentic in whatever way you see. I own 100% of all my companies. I've never taken a penny. Not yet, I might at some point, but that's really important to me. It's important because, I have children, and so I want to make sure that what I'm doing now will help create generational wealth, and not, it's not going to end with me.
Yeah. I do want to go to you, Robert, on this. How does YouTube see itself in the competitive landscape where lots of other companies are vying for the same creative talent?
Sure.
They even came after these guys to do a TV show. It's happening.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of different competitive approaches. So one is from the closed platforms, so the ones you mentioned, TV networks, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, et cetera. And then the other is open platforms. And I think it was actually interesting listening to the point of ownership versus closed platforms. That is a big point of difference. We don't own any of the content on YouTube. The creators do. And they also own all of their ancillary rights so that they can build out other businesses, the horizontal expansion that I was describing. That's not possible if you sell a TV show to any of the other platforms, because they will take those rights because they're used to monetizing it and having that. So big point of difference. I think for us, ultimately, the difference is that the creators, they ultimately are, they're more skilled. They're multi-hyphenates because they edit, they write, they edit, they act, and then they market. They do all of these things, market, they need to get the audience.
Sometimes I gag too, in our content.
Yes, but it's quite a few jobs, right? That's why eventually they have to hire other people for it, but on their way up, they do all of those jobs themselves. And that's why they become so maniacal about, control for a long time, right? And it's
like Capitol Hill.
But it's, because you're used to it, right? You're doing it all yourself, but they're multi-hyphenates completely. And so what you start seeing is that the people who succeed on open platforms are like more broadly skilled, succeed and remain successful, right? They're much more broadly skilled. And that's a really, really big point of difference. And then you're not just gun for hire.
You just brought up a word, control. And since we talked about Super Soul Sunday already, and it is the Sunday, I think that this is a really good place for us to lean into a little bit. I also saw Naja, who works with me, do like this a little bit. So just on this control part, for multi-hyphenate creators like yourselves, how much control have you had to cede to ensure your long-term success and viability, not just of your channels, but of your businesses? And maybe I'm gonna start with you because you're already leaning and rocking with it. So let me hear from you first.
I mean, I think I have all the control, right? I mean, it's hard to build something from its inception and then sort of relinquish some of that. When I started dating my husband, he wanted to learn to sew. So I taught him to sew, and then he just became like amazing. And now he's actually one of the sewing instructors in Sew It Academy. He teaches all the menswear stuff. And even in having such a close relationship there, right? Him working with me, being my creative director, letting go is really hard. It's hard when it comes to the hiring process, because I know, because I've done all the steps like Robert said, you know, I need to control everything that people see that comes out of my brand, right? Because it's a direct representation of me. And even in signing licensing deals, like my licensing deal with Simplicity, that was the first thing I mentioned was, yo, I need to have control of like what fabric I'm gonna use, what the design is. You can't tell me what I'm gonna design. You can't tell me what fabric to make it out of. You can't even tell me how to style it or photograph it, because it needs to look exactly how it looks on my blog. So that's always been a really big part of my mindset. And I think, you know, having that is really important, but it is hard to let go at certain, when you know you need to, right? You can't do it all yourself.
How many hours a night do you sleep? Okay.
Sometimes I don't sleep much.
I can tell. Rhett and Link, let me hear your answers.
I love being in control. It's so great to just like have a pin, just to know the best way to do every single thing, and like,
Awesome.
my wife loves it, my kids love it, like,
And I love it.
he loves it. Man, I mean, you should see the dishwasher after I reload it. It is so satisfying to know that everything's going to be washed correctly.
I mean,
And so, yeah, it's been difficult for me to let go.
But
It sounds like it.
We wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that we do as a company if we had not sort of, you know, entrusted creative people with control. Now, obviously, like everything, the buck stops with us ultimately.
Right.
But you know, we acquired Smosh, another comedy brand, three years ago, and they had built a brand that they understood. And we're not going to come in and tell them, you know, we could tell them how to run their business in certain ways and give them some guidance there. But in terms of like how they connect with their audience, that was something that they had established. And also we've done it where we've incubated shows and channels under the Mythical banner. Now we've got Mythical Kitchen, which was an offshoot of Good Mythical Morning. And yeah, we were sort of guiding that process of helping discover Josh, who was basically just our chef on the show to begin with, and then kind of seeing his potential for being on camera. But the evolution of that, and then now the way that it functions, we're kind of observing and watching from a very high level, but the new ideas and the new shows and the new formats that they're developing over there is something that team is now doing on its own. So it's sometimes it's difficult, right? Because you want to look at each aspect of your business, and there can be an ego thing involved as well, of being like, I feel like I've got to get in there just to prove that I'm still in charge. But once you kind of let go of that, and you're like, but what will enable the best result here? Like, what level of involvement should I have in order to enable the best result? And that's different for every single aspect, but it's a tough thing for every creator.
It's a transition that, yeah, it's part of the Mythical Creator Accelerator. We're mentoring and aspire to mentor even more creators through the process of becoming creators/CEOs. I mean, because you can't be a CEO without empowering and entrusting and relinquishing control to a certain degree. Yet, we have to answer for everything that comes through Mythical, even if we fully entrusted it to somebody, which we've had to do on multiple fronts. It's just you have to trust the right people. And so now we see that as an opportunity. Everybody's talking about the creator economy, and it's basically taking the power of that relationship and exploiting it to not only your advantage, but to your viewers' advantage, to say, you know what, not only am I going to make another show, but I'm gonna make some lip balm. I'm gonna make some hair pomade. If I'm gonna work this hard on my hair, I'm gonna sell a product about it. You know, but it's so you expand out, and you've got to bring people on who, you know, you find yourself running a company and building a culture. These are all there's so much. There's going to be more and more CEO creators every month, every year. So again, we just want to be a part of that process of ushering in that next generation, taking advantage of this creator economy, I guess you'd say.
And you have pomade coming out. Is that what that shameless
Oh,
plug
we've
was?
had the pomade.
Oh, it's been out for years.
We got a couple of pomades.
I missed that link. I need to go
I'm
back.
about to order.
We've got beard oil, beard balm.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got lotion.
Want some lotion?
That's good.
Smells good, too.
I probably need some now. My mouth is even dry up here.
Available for prime shipping.
Okay, very good. Now, Robert, I watched you when I asked this question about control. You were leaning and rocking like Mimi was a second ago. Like almost like you might have wrestled with some of these issues yourselves. Do you want to also share your thoughts about control? No? Okay, we'll move right along.
We cede all control.
I want to ask
They're agnostic.
We're agnostic. We're very agnostic. There's no control here.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe not of the creators, but maybe someplace else. I felt it.
The
I saw
robots
it.
do the control.
Okay. Yes, we can talk about the algorithm. We can talk about this. You know, everybody that's remaining wants to know about algorithms and how to get their subscriber numbers up. But instead, Robert, I'll ask you this. The future of YouTube, what does it look like from your vantage point in the creator economy as it continues to evolve?
I think it's in pomade.
Products.
Part of it.
It's product.
Yeah.
So I think what this decade will bring is a pretty significant change in retail and the way things are sold. And we all got used to buying things from Amazon and from brands like Mimi, and you know, there's so many different creators selling different things. But what you're going to see is lots of commerce moving onto social platforms. You know, where the viewers are for a long time, every single day, and you'll see all the platforms working really hard to connect all the plumbing with all the brands and all the retailers, so that there's sort of frictionless discovery of content and products within the contact, and then with the ability to transact right there very quickly. And so all of this is a lot of hard work, but I would say over this decade, every year, you're going to see this accelerating, and it's going to be probably the most profound change that there is, which will drive huge amounts of revenue towards content creators who own their content and own their product. And sometimes they don't need to own their product as long as they're tagging other brands' products in their videos and earn income from that as well. But sort of having your own channel, controlling your content, and tapping into this commerce opportunity will be an incredible force, you know, for the next 10 years or so and beyond.
How have you all already incorporated this products piece? I know we're talking about beard oil and lotion and pomade, but even selling other products and adding links into your videos. How have you all incorporated some of what's already been discussed?
I think I started that really early on with my patterns. Then when I opened the fabric store, and now I'm working on Mimi G sewing machines, Mimi G notions. So all of those things, anything that I develop, I've always found a way to sell within the platforms. So that's going to be really great. I'm very excited, Robert. That's going to be really great.
Yeah, I mean, I think we at this point, with all the properties that all the content that's going out, there's sort of a ridiculously complicated marketing plan behind the scenes of, there's not a video that goes up where we're not talking about something, and usually it's one of the things that we're selling, whether it's a new piece of merch or a product or an event, a live event or something like that. But we still have the margin to do brand integrations directly as well. And so there's not a video that's either not selling something from us or from another brand that we're kind of highlighting or partnering with at this point. So yeah, and very excited about those tools as well to make those transactions and that point of sale right there with the content.
And we were made into chia pets, which is pretty awesome. We have a paid fan club called the Mythical Society, and every quarter there's what I'm told is called a hard good. That seems like a weird term for me. I guess it just means a physical item. I calling it a hard good. Just a weird terminology that people use. But yeah,
chia pets are rather hard.
They're brittle. They're a little brittle, actually. They're brittle goods.
They probably
Don't drop your chia
probably
pet.
need some beard oil. But so as we close, I want you all to give the audience one thing. What would you want their takeaway to be?
I'm going to take love.
Love. Thanks, Lee.
It is a Super Soul Sunday moment. Thank you very much, Lee.
What are you guys going to do?
I think you're supposed to give them something to take away.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
You didn't understand.
Okay.
No, I'm giving them love.
He's giving that love.
Like, I call love to give to you guys.
That's amazing.
Okay, this might seem a little off topic, but just go with me here. Next time you eat a kiwi, don't peel it. Okay, I see your face. You're like, what? Trust me. Eat it like an apple. It's a better experience. You get the tang from the peel, and also you get more nutrients. You get more fiber.
Tang.
And so, the way this translates into, and you trust me, when you do it, you're going to be thankful that I told you this.
Did you notice it started raining really hard when you? I'm just curious.
And then ask yourself, what other things am I doing to take time to create a worse experience in my life?
You're going to get kiwis.
You're peeling kiwis and you're making it worse for yourself.
I don't know where this went.
Take less time and create a better experience for yourself, and then replicate that in other areas.
Less time, more tang.
Yeah.
What is that, Mimi? Do you have anything inspirational to give the audience?
This is hard to beat.
Besides eating a furry kiwi without peeling
It's
it?
good.
Nope.
He's right. He's right.
He didn't believe me, and he was like, you're right.
I'm not gonna believe Link on this. Y'all have a blood oath
Yeah, you're right.
to lie for each other. Mimi, what do you got?
Listen, we are in a really amazing space with so many opportunities, and if you're considering using YouTube as any form to help your business, don't overthink it and really just do it, right? Because if someone like me can become a CEO and a founder and grow into a multi-million-dollar brand, never having graduated high school, I mean, the world is literally your oyster. You can do whatever it is that you want. And so if our stories are inspirations, or really just give you some guidance into maybe something you've been thinking about doing and you weren't sure how to do it or weren't sure if you wanted to do it, what's the worst that can happen, you know? Just do it. I think that owns to like Nike, but you know what I'm saying? Take it.
You're just borrowing it.
I'm borrowing it.
Robert, anything from you?
Mimi stole mine, but she said it's so much better, so let's end with that one.
Thank you, everybody, so much for coming out. Thank you all.